Hi, it's Janos, it's Real World Audio, and it's time to listen to some music. Actually, it's time for me to share what I experienced, and here, this is what we'll be talking about. This is time to talk about music. So, what I did today, it's Saturday morning for me, and I did a nice listening session. I picked up 7 random mono records from my collection and just listened to them. And they're actually not totally random. They are all piano and mostly Rachmaninoff. And I'm just going to share what I heard listening to all 7 of them. So let's start with beginners. This was the first that I listened to. This is actually Schumann Piano Concerto by Rubinstein. Uh, there we go. So this is not Rachmaninoff, it's Schumann. And then you can see the catalog number up at the top right there, which is it's an RCA Victor, and it's LM2256 Red Seal. So what about this? So Joseph Kripps was the conductor, and Rubinstein played the piano, and actually I put it on when the system was that cold, so it was really that cold. Mono record, put it on, and it's beautiful. And so usually, how I play mono in my system is that I play with 2 speakers, so it's like a dual mono. So I'm sending the same signal to both speakers, and it forms a mono image. And of course, I'm 100% sure that I get at least 10 comments of what other ways are to listen to mono, and that's fantastic. I get those comments all the time, and I know about billion other ways how to listen to mono, but you are most welcome to post them, because people will read the post and get good ideas how to do that. So just my way of what my favorite way to listen to mono is to use my stereo system to listen to mono, so which is like nicely set up for stereo, which means for 2 channel, but in this case both channels are sending the same signal, and then it's mono because it's one signal coming. So, and what happens is that when you have one loudspeaker playing a mono signal, what's the difference between 2 speakers? When you have 2 speakers, then basically you have twice the surface area pushing the air compared to a single speaker. So you have 1 octave lower frequency extension for sound reproduction when you have both of them. And also there's a coupling between the 2 speakers, so you get much more full-bodied sound when you listen to mono that way. And in addition, because the speakers, so you are not just facing one speaker but 2, and the mono image is created essentially in the center. That's why it feels much more like a cabinet-less sound compared to just hearing it from one loudspeaker alone. And also the best thing is that it doesn't matter what kind of record I put on. If it's a mono or a stereo, I don't have to fuss around, totally rearrange my room so I can have one speaker in the corner. By the way, the speaker cable doesn't even let me put it in the corner, so it's a moot point for me, and I have stuff in the corner, so I can't put anything in the corner, so it's double moot. And the other thing is that when I set it up this way to play, it doesn't matter if I play mono or stereo, they both play the image in the room. And in a way that it's like a life size image. And if I put on a record and I don't tell people whether we are listening to mono or stereo, they can't tell that now this is a mono. It still feels that it's in the room, the musicians are in the room, in the space. And if mono doesn't play like that on your system, then there's something wrong. If you just like a pinpoint appearing in the space, then your system is doing something to the sound, because it's shrink to a walnut size. It should not be walnut size. I just listened to these, like for example here, there's the piano playing and then the orchestra. It feels like a life-size piano is here, where the system is, and an orchestra behind them, which is a life-size orchestra. And you are sitting a little bit further apart, like in a real concert hall, and that's how you hear a concert playing when you are not in the first row. In the first row, you have a more of a stereo perception. You feel like left and right, which instrument is more to the left, which is more to the right. But as you sit further away in the audience, then it basically becomes a mono image. And if your system is set up to play mono va, then you will have the same experience basically as if you are in a concert hall and sitting towards the back of the hall and not a front row seat. And by the way, I think when people say, oh, front row seat is the best, that's a total bogus. And I think it was created for people, for patrons, to have like a price range for the different seats, so to have like a seats that sell for double or triple or quadruple the money, so that people who have more money to spend, they can spend it on those tickets and support the orchestra, which is absolutely fine. But it does not make those seats any better, because when you are in the front seats of an orchestra and listening from there, you can hear individual instruments better, what the individual, like what the oboe player is playing, what the fifth violinist is playing, and things like that. You can tell these tiny nuances, but you can't tell the piece. So if you really want to hear the music itself, and you want to get to know the piece you are listening to, you have to sit in the back, because that's where it starts to make sense as an orchestra. In the front, you are not hearing the orchestra. You are hearing the individual musicians. And if you want to have a good classical music learning experience or education in classical music, you have to be familiar how it sounds in the front, how it sounds in the middle, how it sounds in the back, and all three places there you can pick any specific seat where it sounds a little bit better than the neighboring seats, but depending on front or back, it's a different perspective, and it's not the quality. There will be some rows that, depending on the whole acoustics, how the acoustic treatment of the hall is, there will be certain rows which sound much better than other rows. And there are some concert halls where really the first few rows sound way better than the back ones, but that's not the general rule. And here, like listening to this music was... I didn't want to experience anything better. I wasn't even thinking about audio quality terms. I was just listening to music. And then where my thoughts took me is like, do I like this music or not? Is this music for me or not? And I think this should be always your focus when you are listening to music. That the first place, do I want to spend my time listening to this music, or I'm not in the mood, or maybe I'm not in the mood at all to listen to such music, or how is this music? Do I really like this composer? Because and it has nothing to do with sound quality. Just think about it. When you go to the symphony and you have a ticket, and then there you will read they will play 3 pieces. Usually they play 3 pieces on an average night, and there will be an introductory piece, and then another small piece, and then the main feature of the night. Like, let's say there's Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, and they will also play something from Hindemith and something from a little something from Tchaikovsky maybe, or Schumann, something. And you are going, at least talking about me, I would go for the Mozart, for the Jupiter. And of course I am there waiting for that. I don't care for Hindemith at all, and Schumann. Okay, I'm going to suffer through it, and then just just keep an open mind how these musicians will interpret the piece. Will it make me like the piece better than I did before? Will it help me connect to it? Because often the problem is not that the composer is good or bad. Uh, in classical music, the main thing is interpretation. So if the musicians interpret it in a specific way, that's well, we could say very different from what the composer wanted. But in most cases, who knows what the composer wanted, if, especially when the composer has been dead for a long time, right? So we have this problem of interpretation, and that's not a problem, that's a pleasure, because you can listen to a single piece such as Schumann's piano concerto, and if there's like 5 different performances with different people, different orchestra, different pianists, you will have 5 very different experiences. And we were just talking with Nelly about it after we listened to it, and she said that, well, it sounded like kind of like Star Wars music in the beginning, which means that he stole from Wagner, and then it became just some, emotional music, but it did not make sense as a whole. To me, that was the similar impression. I did not really connect to this piece after listening to this recording, and I could say that it's maybe the interpretation, maybe the conductor and the pianist, they were not playing it as Schumann intended. We won't be able to find it out because Schumann has passed away for a very long time ago. But one thing for sure is that it did not push any buttons for neither for me, neither for Nelly. So that was not good. However, the recording quality was stellar. So if you want to hear what mono can sound, can it recall like a whole complete symphonic orchestra? When was this recorded? Can I see 58. It was recorded in 1958, and yes, it can do. And this was pressed in the Hollywood plant, and if the 5th lacquer, so it's an early-ish pressing, but very very far from a first pressing recording quality, and also very far from the Indianapolis recording quality, which is the best plant where RCA made their recordings. If I see Hollywood plant pressings, I really don't even want to listen to them because they are just so inferior compared to the Indianapolis in general. However, in this case, they did a pretty good job, and I could recommend this even though it's a Hollywood pressing. The one that you might pick up might not be a Hollywood pressing, but there's a good chance. Some of them were only issued in one plant or the other. Some had multiple ones. I don't know about the specific history of this recording, whether they did Indiana pressings or not. However, if you love Schumann, then this will be a phenomenal recording for you to try out. And then we'll continue after an intermission. Thank you for tuning in. Have an astounding, awesome day. Please like and subscribe. Bye bye.